2, 3, 4.
Bonjour and bravo! Welcome to the NESN Soccer Podcast. I'm using different languages, Marcus. I think I surprised you.
You did? Yeah.
Yeah, but the NESN Soccer Podcast is here. Time to talk about the World Cup final. I'm Mark. I'm here with Marcus and Nick Goss. I'm obviously pretty excited about this match. Croatia versus France will be 11 a.m. Eastern in Moscow on Sunday. Nick, you were just telling us that there's over 100,000 security staff expected to be in Paris over the weekend.
Closing Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, Eiffel Tower closed.
Bastille Day.
Bastille Day.
On Saturday. So we get the Bastille Day on Saturday, World Cup final, and it's going to be wild whether to win or lose on Sunday.
We should have just gone to France.
The pictures of the Champs-Élysées after the semifinal was amazing. It was just, people were packed right next to each other. It was incredible.
Yeah, obviously very excited. They're
big weekend.
Facing Croatia, the second smallest nation to reach the final, as everybody keeps telling everyone. But it is pretty remarkable.
It was the smallest.
I think it was very early on, maybe like Uruguay when they made the final.
Yes.
So
right.
It's essentially the smallest to ever make it at just over 4.2 million people. Yeah, I mean the big story, I guess, is that Croatia has never. This is their first World Cup final, and they've never won any sort of major tournament, while France is sort of a powerhouse. They've won one World Cup, but have also won the Euros twice. They've won an Olympic gold. So they've got a nice trophy case for themselves and looking to add to it. A couple of really good semifinals. I love the Croatia-England game, but we're going to talk about England and Belgium a little later in the show. We just want to dive right into the final. I'm very happy Croatia made it because I said they were going to make it, but they went to extra time in all three of their knockout rounds in the round of 16 versus Denmark, quarterfinals versus Russia, and semifinals versus England. That's definitely a factor. I mean, they got to be tired. They played an entire extra match. But it also seems like Luka Modric just never gets tired.
Plenty of time to rest after this tournament. And what was the Croatia semifinal? Wednesday?
Yeah. It was Wednesday,
So they have Thursday, Friday, so 3 days to rest. It's not too bad. But yeah, Mark, I think it's definitely a factor.
Right.
France, I don't believe, has played any extra
they
time.
all regulation.
And they have a pretty deep bench. 538.com, interesting stat that France's bench is worth more, I think, all but two of the teams as far as transfer fees go. So, if they have to go into the reserves, they can. But, I think that's a big factor. Interesting historical subplot. These two teams met in the semifinal of the 98 World Cup, and France won 2-1. Didier Deschamps was on that French team. He's now their manager. But yeah, I mean, I picked France to win at the beginning of the tournament. I still think they will win. And not only is their attack, we know the names, Griezmann and Mbappe, but the last two games, they've gone both their winners from center backs.
Right.
Umtiti in the semifinal, Varane scored the first goal.
A fantastic dance after the goal as well.
Against Uruguay. Pavard had an amazing goal against Argentina. They're getting goals from all over the place. The defense has really showed up. Conte, I think, is a possible player of the tournament if France wins. And also, I want to give a shout out to Hugo Lloris. I think he's playing as well as he ever has. If they have another clean sheet, I think he's probably the favorite to win the player of the tournament. Mm-hmm. He's been tremendous. 2 clean sheets in the last 2 games, made some fantastic saves. France should win, but Croatia certainly is capable.
Yeah. Marcus, what are you most excited about just with these two teams in the final?
The jerseys? I mean, nothing inherently about these teams and nothing about... I'm not expecting to see a spectacle of beautiful attacking soccer. I gave up on that at this World Cup weeks ago. Teams that are well structured and functional are the ones that keep grinding out results, and that's the way these teams are designed. So if anybody's ever sat and listened to me really talk about soccer and what I like and what I don't like, I'm more of a romantic. So yeah, my passions aren't stirred ahead of this game. But it is the World Cup final, and I'll be excited about it just to see who wins. I'm going to go down with the Titanic. I've been saying for months that this 2018 tournament is 4 years too soon for France to win, and I'm going to stick with that. I think there is something special going on in Croatia's camp.
Definitely.
Mentally, they've shown one of the mentally strongest teams I've ever seen. 3 come from behind wins, all in extra time. That doesn't happen by accident. There's something going on in this Croatia camp. It's not like France is just stacked with talent from top to bottom. Croatia's got some good players, a couple great ones, and then some guys who are near the World Cup final, and I still don't know much about them. So I have a feeling that on games like this, they are decided by the mental and the physical aspects of the game more than anything. I'm going to stick with Croatia. I think there's something special happening, and we don't quite know what it is yet, and we probably won't know what it is for some time. But Croatia reaching this point just flies in the face of almost everything we thought we knew about international soccer, and a lot of what I've been saying for the last few weeks and months about how organization and harmony and things like that produce the marginal benefits that you need. Yeah, Croatia's just made a mockery of all that, so congratulations to them.
One thing I will say, sorry, Mark, about the France's inexperience or youth, I think they do have plenty of experience. At least some of these guys do. I mean, they went to the Euro final, played in some big games there. Their 2013 U20 team won the U20 World Cup. Pogba and Umtiti were on that team. Players like Mbappe have played in the Champions League semifinal. Griezmann's played in multiple Champions League semifinals. They have played in big games before. And I do think the heartbreak of losing 2 years ago on home soil will be a motivating factor for them in this game.
While they are young, it's kind of like maybe the great teams are the ones that win when they're young and then continue to win. And nobody's really proven themselves as a great team at this World Cup. I think we've said that. But this is maybe the first step of becoming a great team in years to come, is to win this game on Sunday. And they're certainly the favorite. They definitely have the more complete roster. They have history behind them, and they have, within this tournament, the games that have been played in the last 10 days or whatever it's been, they've had more complete performances and have been able to put down their opponents in regulation time each game, while Croatia has had those extra time matches. But that is where there is that never say die attitude. It's weird to say, even at the highest level, when it's not like England gave up or something, or England cracked. I mean, they had all the heart in the world too. But Croatia just seems to find a way to win, and they've got their structure, and maybe the structure will hold against France, and they're able to keep it at, I would think, a low-scoring game and kind of not quite park the bus completely, but they're going to kind of sit back, I think, let France have a little bit more possession, and then take their chances when they can. But the reason I've loved Croatia so much throughout the tournament is because of Luka Modric. At this point, everybody knows he's maybe that sort of forgotten or not appreciated as much player on Real Madrid, he started in all of their Champions League finals that they won for the last 5 years. But, the more I find out about this guy, the more I love him. From sort of a war-torn country and just his life playing soccer in different motel parking lots as his family moved however many times as he grew up, and it's just impossible not to cheer for him. Well, I find it hard to cheer for France when they just have so many great players, and
half of that France team comes from the ghettos around Paris.
Sure, but it's just easy to
cheer
for the
suffering for you.
Just as the nation as a whole is just this big underdog versus a big powerhouse, it makes it easy to cheer for, in my opinion.
I think France, if they win this game, they have an opportunity to be like Spain, where they go on like a 2 or 3 in a row major tournament win streak. If they lose this game, then they become what currently Belgium is and what the 2000 to 2010 England team was. So much talent, couldn't get it done.
Right.
There's a lot on the line for this game, both teams. But I think France, their future could go one of 2 very different ways after this game. So I'm very interested to see.
You're saying if France loses, they could go the way of
a team that's
chronic underachievers?
Yeah, a team that will get to the quarterfinals, semifinals, maybe in the finals perpetually or consistently. They just can't get over that hump.
Right. And for Croatia, if they lose, this is it for them.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll go back. They'll go back to. Yeah, Croatia has. They have this pattern where they have one good tournament and then several bad ones in a row, and then another good one, and then several bad ones. Even though they're always talented and they're always a couple household names, disorganization. has brought them down time and time again. And this is as disorganized a Croatia, I don't want to call it a group, but they were okay in qualifying, finished second in their group behind Iceland. Yeah, I didn't see this coming from Croatia. I thought they had a chance to do well because of Modric, because of Rakitic, because of Mandzukic, but yeah, World Cup final, well, no, I didn't see that coming.
They also seem to, I guess it's like part of their game plan, but they are always pressuring all the way up the field. I mean, especially in the England game, whenever Pickford had the ball, it seemed like he only had seconds to decide what to do with it. And whenever England's defensive players had the ball, Croatian players were tracking them down, closing them down, and just not allowing any sort of like building out of the back. They disrupt 100% of the field, and it doesn't really allow people, I think, to create what they want to create as they're trying to build their attack.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if they're going to have enough to stand up to France's talent, because I think France is the most talented team they've faced, maybe besides Argentina. But France is
two goals better than Argentina.
Right, they're more
top to bottom. I think France is the most talented team in the tournament.
Right. So
include the bench too.
It's just kind of like that final test. Can you really make it over? I also am excited. It seems like in these finals, it's always just some unexpected name. You just like, who scored?
Like Eder.
Or maybe
scoring him for Portugal.
Exactly.
Would never have thought that.
And he wasn't even on the Portugal roster for this World Cup.
Götze came on as a substitute. Was Drexler or Götze that scored 2014?
Götze. Yeah.
He wasn't a starter, right?
He might have been a starter. I don't.
But yeah, Mark, I totally agree. It's usually a name. I mean, he has to score.
But it could also kind of go the other way, where somebody gets a red card that's unexpected, or just something happens, an own goal, and it's just this moment of disaster. There's going to be a defining moment, and you just never know what it is until it happens. And I think that's the most exciting part about when you're at this stage of a tournament. I guess it can also happen in the semifinals, but there's just one magnifying moment that's going to define the game. And I'm very excited to find out what it is.
Stage makes people do crazy things.
Yeah.
Look at Zidane.
That's true, yeah.
Nigel Dion, didn't he kick
karate kick Xabi Alonso, yeah.
Didn't get sent off for that, but there will be a crazy moment.
Yeah, something will happen.
So let's just talk real quickly. I think we should mention Kylian Mbappe, just because he seems to be on the verge of breaking out into a unlimited career. The sky's the limit, and this is kind of the opportunity to springboard it, jumpstart it, and launch himself into a top player in the world conversation. If he scores a couple of goals in this game, what does that do for him?
Makes him Pele.
Think so?
You meant it was as a teenager just coming on and...
Yeah, I mean, he's this France team where, let's hypothesize that they win the World Cup in 2018, has more than enough to repeat in 2022. They can challenge in 2026, just based off of the ages and the talent level and experience level of guys on this roster. For the next 2 World Cups after this one, France is going to be among the favorites, period. Mm-hmm. And if they win, Pele was 18 when he won in 1958, and then he won again in 62, and 66 they kicked him off the field, but in 1970 he's part of arguably the greatest World Cup team ever, 1970 Brazil. So, yeah, this sets the stage for Mbappe to realize that potential. Yeah.
Would be great for PSG too.
It would be.
Yeah.
Real Madrid comes calling.
I mean, whoever has this player, Mbappe, for the next decade or 15 years will get a lot of likes, a lot of shares, and a lot of clicks.
You can kind of see it where he becomes this sort of Mr. France type of guy, where maybe they win this game, he scores, he goes on, is able to bring PSG and to bring them a Champions League final. Sort of does that for France overall, and it's kind of like I think the most potential of any soccer player right now, because we kind of know the story of Messi and Ronaldo. I mean, there's still a little bit to be written, and Neymar, it seems like, well, he just has to win a World Cup for Brazil, and that's the greatest thing he can achieve. I feel like we don't even know the greatest thing that Mbappe can achieve.
Yeah.
It's kind of just all right in front of us, and we're watching it unfold. And I think even though Croatia winning would be an incredible story, maybe in the legends and the annals of soccer history, the most incredible thing that is developing here could be just the story of Mbappe's career and what he can do for France.
Yeah, a star has been born this summer. I mean, we at this table have known about him for better part of 2.5 years, but for those that just watch the World Cup or just tune in for summer tournaments, yeah, Mbappe's I think the back heel really sealed it. The performance against Argentina, and then the back heel against Belgium.
Yep.
They really, star is born.
Very nice. Okay, so is any final things on the final that we want to talk about before we kind of dive backward into the semifinals with England and Belgium and their runs?
I was just thinking about it sort of from a tactical perspective.
Yeah.
I can see Croatia, can France, who have been quite effective counterattacking throughout the knockout rounds, use that strategy against Croatia effectively, where France might have been, they played fairly conservatively against Belgium. Who did they play against? Uruguay. Against Uruguay, they weren't adventurous. Against Argentina, it was more or less a counterattacking extravaganza. I'm wondering how much adventure we'll see out of this French team, and I think they'll be a little bit uncomfortable doing that because they haven't really played that way at all in Russia. And will that play into Croatia's hands, where if France is forced to do something they haven't shown that they're accustomed to doing here, that could sort of set a trap for Croatia, and that's why they're going to win the World Cup final.
You're saying Croatia's going to win?
Yeah. Because France will be wasteful with the ball, and Croatia will punish mistakes.
Will Croatia have enough stamina to withstand the pace of France's counterattack if they go that strategy? Mbappe and
yes. These Croatians, I've never seen a team willing to suffer and die on the field like these Croatians. This is like the Leicester City of international soccer. It's, a team just comes around, they get it together, and they play their way. And yeah, anything's possible. I think that's what I wrote after Croatia beat England, is that it's, Croatia being the 20th ranked team coming in, lowest ranked team to ever reach the FIFA World Cup final. It's, there's no excuses for anybody. Same thing I wrote after Leicester won the title. Every team that competes in any competition has a chance of winning if they do what they do exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm. I think one player that we talked about, sort of the obscure player that could have a moment. I like Ante Rebic, number 18 for Croatia. Plays on the right wing. And he's one of those guys where I mentioned earlier how Croatia is just always hustling to the ball and pressuring 100% of the way up the field. He's pretty much that guy all the time. If a defensive player for France has the ball and you see him have to get rid of it quickly, it's probably Rebic who's running after him, and then he keeps running after the ball. He's like a Energizer bunny, all up on the offensive side for Croatia. I think he has 1 goal, maybe 2 in this tournament, and you know what he has? He has the goal against Argentina where the Argentina's keeper screwed up, and he had that beautiful finish that kind of flicked it over.
Oh yes,
that was Rebic, and that was a hustle play with an incredible finish, but he was only there because he was running the whole game waiting for an opportunity. And I think that could open up again in this game, in the final. Somebody has nerves, somebody makes, not even that, just the slightest of mistakes, and he's there to capitalize on it. And maybe he doesn't score, but he creates the chance as somebody else runs on. Maybe Mandzukic ends up with the goal. But it'll be Rebic who starts the play. And That's my very specific, bold prediction, is that Rebic will create a goal seemingly out of nothing for France, and maybe even for Croatia, and maybe it's even like against the run of play, and France will seem to be in control, and then suddenly, not anymore.
You talked about Mbappe being, a star is born. It's a pretty big game for Paul Pogba too.
Oh yeah.
I think he's been much better at this World Cup playing in Deschamps' formation than he has been at least last year with Manchester United. He was excellent against Belgium. He was, a year or two ago, was in the conversation for top 4 or 5 players in the world. I mean, he went for that massive transfer fee.
Yeah, still is.
This is he wasn't so great in the Euro final 2 years ago. This is his opportunity to say, I'm still here. I'm one of the best players in the world, So
look who he's up against. I mean,
against
Rakitic and Modric.
To be the
best, midfields in this game is just like
to be the best. You have to be the best. So I look for Pogba to really take a stake in this game if he's going to really say, I'm one of the 3 or 4 best players in the world.
And what's great about Pogba is he's kind of, just through watching France, he's like kind of a guy that's consistently, not in a bad way, but like yelling at players and positioning guys. He seems to be a real leader out on the field.
Oh, he is.
And he's still pretty young, right? I mean,
24.
24 or
something like that.
But yeah, I think Mbappe maybe kind of screwed something up, and he like yelled right at Mbappe and doesn't care about whatever talents or whoever he's talking to. He's just trying to get it right. But he's also not doing it as like the play is still going on, right? And he's just sitting there pouting as, somebody else is doing something. Like, he'll continue to play, and then the ball goes out of bounds, or like a free kick's being set, and then he says, hey, 30 seconds ago you screwed this up. Just clear it, just do this, just do that. So
yeah, young team, they need a coach in the field.
Yeah, so he's another guy. I mean, if they're going to go on one of these runs, he's going to be right in the middle of it. Okay, so we do have a great final coming up.
Should we make a prediction? Marcus,
Marcus, I think
France. You said Croatia, Mark.
I think Croatia's going to win in kind of, like I said, against like France. Maybe people will be saying France should have won, and they didn't. And that's kind of what Croatia's been. Is the other teams have had opportunities to knock them off, and they haven't. What about you? I think we know what you're going to say.
Yeah. Do we have to make a prediction, Nick?
Now, right? I had France over Germany at the start. I think France 2-0, 2-1.
Okay.
In normal time.
Well, speaking of teams that should have knocked off Croatia, I think England had a really good chance to do so. Especially early on, they kind of missed chances to push their lead to 2-0.
Harry Kane. My God. How does he not score there? Or pass to Sterling? He's
probably going to win the Golden Boot unless Mbappe or Griezmann has a hat-trick in the World Cup final, which would be incredible. But, he kind of had a really good opportunity. And I think it's a little more difficult than, it's not like it was, he missed a wide open net. Like, he had to do it all quickly, and there was pressure boiling down. But he's Harry Kane, he's finished that type of thing before, and wasn't able to do it. Comes back to be costly. But for me, the story with England is they have been, I guess, the most entertaining fan base to make a deep run at least any of the teams that made the quarterfinals, besides maybe Russia. I kind of put them hand in hand. Just because the England fans are just so passionate.
Spear throwing thing is really wild.
Yeah. And it's just been such like a joy to watch England as a whole, and the players seem to be, we said it on our last podcast, just really enjoying the run, and kind of had that for England attitude, which is easy to get behind. But at the same time, I think that a chance to reach the final, and that it may come back to haunt them, a decade from now when they find that they haven't been back to the semifinal.
This was their chance.
They blew it. Completely blew it.
They were on the easier side of the bracket. They played a Colombia team without James Rodriguez. They played a Sweden team that is good, but they should still beat.
Yeah.
Then they played a Croatia team that is good, obviously, but had just played 2 overtime and penalties games in the knockout stage, and they took a 1-0 lead 5 minutes in.
Yep.
The script was written for them. You couldn't have had it any better for England.
You could say that is the England script.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was super easy, but it's hard to imagine them having an much easier path in future World Cups. And yeah, they blew it. As Marcus said, this is their shot, and it's very disappointing for them.
Anything to add, Marcus? They blew it.
Yeah, they blew it. I mean, if you contrast what they did in the first half versus what they did in the second, and in extra time, I mean, England had 2 shots on goal the whole game. First was Trippier in the 5th minute. The other was in the 99th minute. So they went essentially a whole game without putting a shot on goal. Harry Kane missed a couple of the best chances. They only created a couple for him. Yeah, I saw a number of England's games at this tournament and was never that impressed with what they had done. It was, structured, functional, and they just did what was necessary to get to the next stage. But then when it really came down to crunch time, their collective, I guess we can call it youth and inexperience at, knockout rounds in major tournaments really reared its head. Yeah, it's got to be terribly disappointing for England. And going into the 3rd place game, I just wrote a little preview that I think Belgium's going to show them who's boss again.
All right.
Because Belgium, I think 9 of their likely starters play in the Premier League, and yeah, all of Belgium's players that play at these Premier League clubs against these Premier League opponents they're going to face Saturday are of higher standing within those clubs. And I'm talking about the Courtois, the Hazards, the Companies, the De Bruynes, and they make more money too. So,
right.
Seen they're better than Harry Maguire?
Yes. Yes, I am. Yeah, I mean, England had their chance and blew it.
Not to get too tactical, but in watching the game, it just seemed like England, they couldn't figure out how to not just play these long balls, like at least 40 yards in the air, if not further. Sometimes all the way from Pickford, it would just go to the other goalie. And it seemed like they just didn't have any other solution, and they were just giving the ball back to Croatia time and time again. But then I say that, and it kind of goes against what I said earlier, with Croatia pressuring 100% of the field and somehow being able to do so for 120 minutes and just not allowing teams to, I guess, do what they want to do. And again, we'll say that England isn't as talented as France, but I think Croatia will try to do the same thing against France and get them out of what they want to do. And if France starts playing long balls, then it's a sign of trouble for France that things aren't going well.
Yeah.
I feel like England played a little too much not to lose, whereas Croatia was really going for it.
Right.
You could see which team wanted it more. I know it's such a cliche, but I felt like England, whether it was the pressure or they were up for so long, they just didn't have that killer instinct that you need to have against a team that's a veteran team.
There was no discernible strategic or tactical plan for when that game was, when they had the lead or when it was 1-1.
The extra time was really one-sided.
Yeah.
Croatia was all over them.
I'm also getting this feeling from social media out of England, and that much like we always talked about Mexico reaching the quarterfinal, England reaching the semifinal maybe was this sort of like golden fairy tale, place to make, and that they finally made it back there and were almost too satisfied with having made it that far and squandered probably their best chance at reaching the final that they're going to get.
Yeah.
For, since it's only played every 4 years, maybe like a 30-year period. Mm-hmm. Especially if you talk about the teams that weren't in this tournament and the teams that didn't play well. If Germany can reload, if the Netherlands and Italy and even you look at like Chile or Argentina can get it together.
Brazil, Belgium.
England quickly falls back from the top.
Oh yeah.
If those countries can kind of reorganize and retool and become powerful again. So this was definitely the best chance for England that they're going to have for a long time. And I'm seeing all these things like, we'll be back. 4 years from now, we'll be ready to do it again. And I'm not convinced by that. I won't be expecting them to do much in the 2022 World Cup.
Or if they're on the other side of the bracket, they probably lose in the round of 16. You know, they lose to France, Uruguay, Brazil, Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
If James Rodriguez plays,
Yeah.
maybe they don't.
probably
Maybe
would,
they
yeah.
go out in the round of 16.
And speaking of teams squandering a good chance, I don't think Belgium squandered anything, but their golden generation that we've heard about for a long time now, looks like they kind of probably their last shot at a major trophy. Maybe they could do something at Euros in 2020, but a great run. I mean, they made the semifinal and they ran into France.
Did Lukaku play in that game, Mark?
Which game?
The France game. He did, but
Yeah.
you wouldn't have noticed.
He
him.
did. He missed a sitter or two.
He did not score in the 3 knockout stage games. He only scored against Tunisia, and who was the other team, not England, in that group?
Panama.
Panama.
Yeah.
The only two. He didn't score against any of the good teams. And
Where have we heard that before?
in the Premier League, Champions League. Hazard didn't score in the 3 knockout stage games either.
But he was great in all
He
of
was.
them.
But you need your best player, especially if you have a guy like Lukaku, to score goals, and he didn't score any. And you know, they were able to get by Brazil. They were able to come back miraculously against Belgium or against Japan. But against the France team, they only scored 1 goal in the final. You know, maybe you get one and go to penalties and win.
Right.
So Lukaku, really disappointing for me.
Yeah.
I thought Courtois was excellent.
I was disappointed in Belgium's reaction as well. There was a lot of sniping at France for their negative tactics and, saying France played too defensively, played to sit back. And, yeah, I mean, that's, they saw what Belgium was able to do against Brazil and eliminated that sort of, or most of the possibility of scoring those kind of goals. So
I hate when teams do that, where they bash another team's tactics of how they lost.
And it's not like France just parked the bus completely
Right.
either. They were going up the field, and Mbappe had runs, and Griezmann and Giroud.
I think
all on the counterattack, though.
Several Argentina players complained about that against Iceland, and it's like, well, listen, Iceland made it to the Euro quarters by doing that, so they're going to do it at the World Cup, and you need to be ready to play against
They
it.
have to do that. They
Yeah.
don't have a Lionel Messi. They
Like,
don't
you
have
can't sit there and complain that like it's not an open free game, and that's what suits you. So now you're upset. Like,
When you get to the stage of the tournament, that's what teams do. They don't
Yeah.
want to make mistakes. They don't want to go down 1-0. The last 3, 2006, 1-1, went to penalties. 2010, 1-0 after extra time. 2014, 1-0 after extra time. You're not going to score a lot of goals at this stage. Teams they're not going to set up like that.
so
blame 'em.
what's next for Belgium? I guess you think they'll win the 3rd place game, and will that be the?
I do,
I'd be
and
shocked if they didn't.
this sets the marker for future generations of Belgians who won't reach these heights. I think of Hazard, De Bruyne, Vincent Kompany, Vertonghen, Alderweireld. It's going to be a long time before Belgium has as good a chance of doing something, of winning a major tournament as they've had in 2018. I guess there'll be factors in Euro 2020. They'll probably be, I would say, less likely to win that tournament than they were coming into Russia. So, yeah, the golden generation, it's not over, but I think their best days are ended on Tuesday.
I can agree with that.
Maybe they peaked against Brazil.
Right. Well, the semifinals were very entertaining, and I think I liked England versus Croatia more. But I hope the World Cup final can sort of live up to the rest of the tournament. It's often, just as far as the actual game, like if you separated it out and it wasn't a World Cup finals, typically boring, like you just said. But the tournament has been great. I think regardless of who comes out here in winning, it's going to be a great story for either side.
FIFA President Gianni Infantino at his closing press conference today said it was the best World Cup ever. I disagree.
Yeah, we need a great final. for that time. Best group stage ever?
No,
No?
2014.
2014. We were all over the group stage, though. It was a good group
I
stage.
thought it was really great. I think
It was
thought
good.
it
I mean,
really
I
good, 2014.
I have a feeling that we like the World Cup so much, and I mean we as in humanity like the World Cup so much that while it's going on, we just love everything that's happening, and we don't really step back and look at it or evaluate it for what it was, which a tournament of set pieces, no great teams, 3 or 4 great games out of 64 total. There have been a couple rest days where I try and go back and find a good game to sit and watch. Outside of Spain, Portugal, Argentina, France.
Belgium, Japan.
Belgium, Japan was compelling for half. All right, I'll put Belgium, Japan in there. Brazil, Belgium, I thought was very good. Great games, classic games. Not that many.
All right.
A lot of great teams. Some great players, some couple great individual performances, but yeah, I have a feeling if we look back on this tournament 12, 16, 20 years from now, we won't be calling it the best World Cup ever. It was good. It's good enough.
Well, it'll sort of be like the last World Cup that we have known, at least in my lifetime. I forget when it expanded to 32 teams.
I think
But
that was 98.
was it? So the next World Cup in Qatar will be during the fall.
Speaking of
And then
which,
the one after that.
I'm sorry, FIFA confirmed today in the Qatar World Cup in 2022 will be played between November 21st through December 18th. Your president confirmed Friday today.
Yeah. So that's
And it'll
kinda
be
weird.
the best World Cup ever.
You think why? Why do you think that?
I was saying that very flippantly,
Oh, yeah.
sarcastically.
So
And you know which one's going to be better than that one? The 2026.
2026.
Yeah. Every World Cup's the best World Cup ever when you're trying to hype it and sell it,
right.
is the point I'm trying to make.
There will be plenty of that in 2026.
That's right.
It'll be very interesting to see just how all the different clubs react or handle the World Cup taking place during the middle of their season. But yeah, I just sort of look back, and the next one will be during a fall period, and then after that it expands to 48 teams. So this is sort of the last summer 32-team World Cup, or it is the last summer 32-team World Cup, and to that I think it did it justice. To it really was a good tournament. As far as being the best or not is always going to be up for debate. But as the soccer calendar turns, there's always a new story. And we got a pretty big story to take our attention away from the World Cup. And pretty much the only person that could do that, or maybe there's one or two others, but Cristiano Ronaldo is heading to Juventus, leaving Real Madrid after, 9 seasons?
9 seasons.
And
451 goals.
it's a lot. It's a lot of goals.
4 Champions League titles.
4 Champions League titles. A lot of sit-ups.
A lot of shirts being taken off.
So he will head to Serie A and Juventus. I think this is fantastic for Serie A. I'm kind of not entirely sure that it makes Juventus. Like when you compare their point total in Serie A this upcoming season to the last 3 seasons, I bet it'll be extremely similar. I bet they'll either be at worst in the semifinals of the Coppa Italia, probably win it, and then they'll be probably in the semifinals of Champions League. And it doesn't change that much for me what I think of Juventus as is Serie A favorites, Champions League favorites with 4 or 5 other clubs. But it just brings them that star power that I don't think they have had in a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
They've had stars,
they
but
had
not.
Zidane in the early to late 90s.
But Zidane wasn't Zidane
wasn't, no.
when he was at Juventus.
Oh.
He was a
will
great
Ronaldo
player, but
be Ronaldo when he's at Juventus?
And league play.
yes, I think so.
At least for another year.
Ronaldo will still, I think he'll be up for the challenge of showing Italy exactly what makes him so great. Italy is a league that's probably a little bit more forgiving to older legs. Certainly Italian fans and clubs and players appreciate older players in ways that they aren't appreciated in Spain, England, Germany. And Ronaldo has led the Champions League in scoring the last, 5 or 6 years. So, he's still going to boss that competition as well. I think this makes Juventus more likely to win the Champions League than they were before. Certainly they'll be Serie A winners.
Yeah, they're going to win.
They've done domestic double 1, 2, 3, 4 times in a row now.
For me, this is all about the Champions League.
Yeah.
They went to the final, lost to Barcelona in 2015. Next year they lost to Bayern Munich. Then they lost in another final to Real Madrid. They lost to Real Madrid again last year in the quarterfinals. It's kind of like where Chelsea was before they won, where Bayern Munich is every year. They're all in on the Champions League.
Yeah.
So we know Bayern Munich's going to probably win Germany every year. Chelsea was trying to get that so bad, the Champions League, after some really big heartbreak. For Juventus, this is the one thing they haven't won in a while. When was the last time they won? The 90s?
1996, I believe.
Yeah, so, they've come really close, and that's the play for them. I think Ronaldo, his success will be judged in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Because even if they didn't have him, like you said, Mark, they were the favorites anyway in Serie A.
Right.
Not that it wouldn't be semi-competitive, but they're the team to beat.
It hasn't been. I mean, I guess it's been barely semi-competitive, basically, for 4 or 5 years. But to that effect, with it not really changing anything about Juventus within Italy, it's fantastic for Italian soccer.
No, phenomenal.
Because what will happen is people will hopefully tune in to Juventus Serie A matches and not just their Champions League matches, and then see the other clubs competing. And it's been this weird thing in Serie A the past 3 or 4 years where Juventus is running away with the title, and then there's a very competitive race for Champions League contention, which I understand can be difficult to get interested in, especially if you don't know much about the clubs. But it's been the matches that develop within that competition have been fantastic, and hopefully it can bring a few more eyes to Serie A. And I think that's kind of the goal of the league, and Juventus as a leader of the league. It's going to be a wild success. I mean, whether it results in Champions League title or not, we'll see, but it'll certainly result in plenty of jerseys sold. So I'm excited
We've
about
already
it.
been seeing that, have we, Marcus? What was it? Do you remember the figure?
Yeah, they were selling 1 jersey a minute the first day after Ronaldo arrived at Juventus's club store in Milan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they sold a lot of jerseys. The website crashed.
Yep.
They're flying off the shelves. Ronaldo signed a 4-year contract. I say he stays 3 years, has 3 cracks at the Champions League, and then moves to MLS.
Yeah, I can see that. All right. Well, definitely something to keep us excited once the World Cup finally comes to an end and we're sitting around twiddling our thumbs. But
For a week.
for a week, yeah. So I guess we'll be back to discuss the World Cup aftermath, World Cup final aftermath on Monday, where, we'll look back at the final game, but also, I guess, the tournament as a whole. And just want to thank you guys for coming back here to join me today. Nick, for your day off today, coming on in to do the podcast.
It's the World Cup final.
Yeah.
It's all hands on deck.
All hands on deck. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to start listening on iTunes by searching NESN on iTunes to find all NESN soccer podcasts, as well as all NESN podcasts as a whole. Also head to NESN.com/World Cup for more World Cup coverage. And keep an eye out for World Cup Now, where Marcus Omar has been providing fantastic in-depth detail on various stories around the World Cup. Okay, thanks for joining us, and have a good one.